This is really special. I think we're really seeing the momentum with partners like Cochrane Supply. We've doubled down our focus on supporting the team, and really you see it in the incredible lineup. I mean, it is an all-star sort of cast here at Cochrane Supply. Last year we were down in Dallas. That was very exciting. First time we were down there. 2 years ago we were here on this stage talking about our products. To see where the industry's come in the last 2 years, and I think you'll appreciate the changes that, 2 years ago we were still coming out of the pandemic. We were in a supply chain crisis. We were very apologetic. We couldn't ship our BAS systems. We're still having some issues a little bit with our electromechanical systems, but the time has changed quite a bit, and we definitely have a good trajectory of where we're going in the building space. And we talked about a little bit about what's going on in that building space. Let me just pull up the first slide here, and then I'll introduce myself. There we go. What's going on in the building space, which is really a complicated environment. We talked about the migration from aerospace and how we're kind of the hand-me-down of some of the technologies. This is actually the most complicated domain there is, right? Because you're dealing in the physical world, you have mechanical equipment, you have to anticipate what comfort looks like, you have to have workflows for people that they don't all work for the same company, that it's not all standardized. Every building is different, it's like a snowflake. So I'm Bill Schwebel. I came to the industry 4 years ago. And I came into it from the connecting and digitizing the workflows in the retail space, the warehouse space, manufacturing and healthcare. Before that, I worked in connected cars. I actually did a lot of work here in Detroit. Ford Motor Company was the first connected car with Ford Sync, which was a partnership that Alan Mulally built with Bill Gates to build Ford Sync. I had the fortunate opportunity to work on that program, do that launch with Alan Mulally and Bill Gates. And that's been my career, going through these analog to digital transformations and leveraging the digital technologies to improve the outcomes and what we're working on. So at Johnson Controls, we represent some famous, fabulous brands. Johnson Controls itself, a lot of people know us as Johnson. We've been in the business since 1883 when Warren Johnson invented the thermostat. So it started in Wisconsin. Started the company in 1885. So we talk about the 50 years, we're 140 years. In this business, and going through all of those migrations, especially the pneumatic to DDC and DDC electronic into what we're doing now in the digital space. We're going to talk a lot about that. Facility Explorer is our flagship Niagara platform. It leverages our Johnson Controls BAS controllers and a lot of our secret sauce from the control standpoint. And then we layer on the Niagara, and we layer on some of our special capabilities and workflows on Facility Explorer. Metasys, of course, introduced in the early 90s, really one of those early systems that took advantage of the DDC migration and the power that came with the microprocessor to be able to provide those capabilities in a building. A lot of Metasys out there, a lot of Metasys being talked about here. How do we upgrade and migrate Metasys? How do we attach to Metasys, etc.? EasyIO is kind of our digital fighter brand. EasyIO came out with digital, pure digital when it was launched, came into the Johnson Controls family just before the pandemic, 2019, came into the family. It's one of the products that you use if you have hard, kind of unique problems to solve. We've got it out on the floor. You can see more about it. It's an interesting platform. We've just relaunched a new capability that we call the Neo series. We launched in Asia last October, and that Neo series is making its way around the world. It'll be going into Europe and then eventually here, but we'll be able to take advantage of what's going on in that platform. Pretty exciting. And then we also operate PEN, refrigeration controls. We see a lot of PEN in buildings, in air handlers, in areas where we need to do sensing, etc. A lot of equipment, OEM equipment comes bundled with PEN, and there's a huge aftermarket, of course, for PEN. And you can see our new System 550 out in the exhibit space. So what's happening at Johnson Controls? A lot of change. A lot of change. So, if you ask people, 10, 15 years ago, what's Johnson Controls, they'd think we're an automotive company based in Auburn Hills. We're purely in the building space. Last year we announced we're spinning out our light commercial and residential business. So our York residential, York rooftops, and our Hitachi residential businesses. That's going to Bosch, and we hope to close that deal this summer so that we can totally focus on commercial and industrial buildings. That's our only focus across controls, HVAC equipment, fire, and security. So that's what our company's focused on. We just brought in a new CEO, Joachim, came in. He's actually been here in Detroit. He's been doing ride-alongs. Some of you may have met him. He's very much roll up the sleeves getting into the business. We had our first earnings call yesterday. It was very successful. So 6 weeks on, he's probably been out in the field 4 days a week, meeting with customers, 1 day a week back in Milwaukee. We did open a new lab facility as well, the Warren Johnson Engineering Lab in Milwaukee. We opened in October. We were in our original 507 East Michigan downtown Milwaukee building since 1895. So we were in that building, and a lot of you have been in that building. Very interesting space, kind of living laboratory of really going through those migrations. Well, we were able to replicate what we had in that building and really advance it. Much more of an experience center. All of you are invited. We bring customers in there pretty much every day to go experience engineering, not only what's happening across buildings and building technology, but actually get involved in the product development. So actually come in hands-on, and then that input actually impacts how we do our product development. And then we have a lot of focus data centers. We have our Advanced Development and Engineering Center in York, Pennsylvania, which we opened just right before the pandemic as well. Huge facility focused on the thermal management and all of the things happening, especially in data centers. If you look at a 1 gigawatt data center as an example, how much thermal management has to go into that facility. Huge, we talked about, the investment Microsoft's making and all the other hyperscalers and, other colos and other data centers. We need new technology to handle the cooling and thermo needs for these businesses. So what's happening from a global trends perspective? And a lot of you feel this, and, just to kind of give a perspective, first off, and this is a global trend, but there's a lot more focus on sustainability, energy management, just being prudent with what we're doing. Just don't leave on, pressurization in your OR 24/7 if you're only using it 4 or 6 hours a day. If you think about how much energy is consumed in a critical environment, in an operating room, in a lab environment, 40% of a university or hospital center could be just focused on the energy use in that critical environment. Doing things like that. And it's different by region. Europe has a very regulatory sort of focus on what they're doing. It's driving a lot of BAS upgrades and retrofits in buildings that previously didn't have BAS systems. So a lot of them, what we call the mid-market buildings, have to, by mandate, have to have a BAS system. So that's driving a lot of activity in Europe. In Asia, we see a lot of complexity in the BAS system because of the changing workforce demographics. People don't understand how to implement the older, more legacy BAS systems. They need simpler things to work on. In Japan, as an example, there's only 1 worker for every 8 open BAS tech jobs. So we have to rapidly re-engineer how we focus and how we build our solutions on an end-to-end basis. And it impacts the workflow really across all of the personas in a building life cycle. But that change in demographics is real, and you all feel it as you try to bring in talent and how to bring in talent and train your talent. We spend a majority of our time with our team in training. I just left Milwaukee this week. We had 50 new of our kind of mid-level tech / project managers in for training in Milwaukee this week. It's a full week, very intensive. A lot of those employees have been with the company for a long time, but they're learning new ways to build these systems. The technology is also changing. We talked a lot about that, what's happening from the technical perspective. Now that we're digitizing, we can actually get in a lot more data. Yesterday we talked about, really having that 1 to 3 second visibility of what's happening with pressurization, what's happening with other things in a building. Is becoming really important. And the technology is enabling that. So that smart building sort of capability, which means, hey, I get information, I can act on that information, really is what creates a smart building. That technology is coming in. It comes in every day. We see slight upgrades, a lot like that migration that we remember in automotive that went from an analog standalone thing. You were worried about horsepower and things like that, and then all of a sudden it's like, can I get Bluetooth on it? Can I connect it? Right? And you're just moving on. Now, can it drive itself? That migration has happened in the building space as well. This occupant well-being and experience, you can't emphasize more how important that is in what we see in the marketplace. Nobody wants to go into stinky, unattractive buildings anymore. They have a choice. And users have a choice, and a lot of activity. If you think through what happened through the pandemic, almost every building got upgraded in some fashion. Even if I was downsizing the commercial real estate space, I still wanted upgraded space. So there's still a lot of money being spent on improving those experiences, and it's around occupant well-being. If you know that this may not be a desirable place, and we talked about, somebody was talking about how all of the work to make sure that you have clean space. So we just went through the well, and we're in the process of the well certification of our new Warren Johnson Engineering Lab. And it's pretty intensive. It's down to what are the fibers in the carpet, how do the employees feel about this, what is, the survey was almost 2 weeks of intensive work by the auditor for well. And then, of course, the big trend around retrofit. And all of these things fit that. And there's so much more focus now on improving spaces, upgrading spaces, retrofitting spaces, expanding campuses, etc. That's really is the focus of the industry. And a lot of it is due to, really this notion of the building life cycle. And I've talked about this in the past, but it's not just the construction event for a new dirt in a greenfield and then walk away, right? It's all about the whole life cycle and all of the personas involved in a building's life cycle, all the way, back into the early Belimo. Belimo was talking about how it's in product development and through that life cycle. So as you're thinking about the products all the way through, when it's used by your industry, the system integrators, etc., it's getting through those engineering events and the design events and the install events, and then how do I commission that building, and how do I maintain that building and operate that building? How do I warrant what's going on in that building? How do I make the experience so it's really a break-free sort of experience and a seamless experience all the way through the life cycle. So a lot of our product development across our portfolio, whether it's the software, the controllers, the electromechanical equipment, the field devices, etc., all are being modified and adapted to live through that building life cycle. And there's a lot of key enablers for that are super critical. So from the BAS perspective, in this transition to digital, and we're seeing that it's going from, and if you think of an analog environment, a serial environment, it's this notion of switch versus transport. You have enough analog wire, essentially, and you have to bring it to a connection point, and then you bring it to another connection point, and you bring it to another connection point. That's a switch versus transport sort of notion. When that transport becomes broadband, high speed, IP-based, you don't need all of those connection points in your network. You can now serve that network in a much flatter way. Data flows through that network in a much flatter way. And then the software and the enablers, so if you think about the processing power of a legacy field controller, didn't have a lot of processing capability. Now you can put that processing capability and that software edge control capability anywhere you want. You can put it in an actuator, you can put it on a device, you can put it up in the cloud, you can put that edge control anywhere you want. So what we're seeing happen to the architecture of the networks is you've got your physical touching the world, the sensors, the valves, actuators, etc., the things that need to touch the edge. Of course, you have your edge equipment as well, your central plant equipment, etc., your air handlers. And then you have this notion of edge control, which is where do I want to apply that edge control, and what do I need? If I need to, slam on the brakes and stop the car before I kill somebody, you have to have that edge control pretty close to whatever that mechanism is. If you're trying to get 1 to 3 second sort of response times, you can be a little bit more diversified with that edge control. And we're starting to build systems that are distributing some of that edge control, either pushing it down into the device itself or centralizing that to get some efficiencies. If you look at, for an example, an air handler, we have 77 wires going into an air handler for all the sensors, actuators, all of the things that go on into an air handler. That's a lot of physical analog wire that goes into a typical average air handler. What can you do to streamline that? So we're spending a lot of time, and if you come to Milwaukee, you can see some of the things we're doing in that space. But this flattening of the architecture gives us a lot of capabilities to really streamline it. It helps us bring in some of the software that we're talking about to do, drive some of those outcomes in buildings, manage some of those workflows. This notion of managing, a building from your cell phone is definitely, real here, real now. It was interesting to see the Distech Builder demonstrations yesterday. Very focused on those workflows. That's what the industry is really doing. So from a Johnson perspective, we have some new product development that are going on. A lot of focus on ASHRAE Guideline 36, and it's, we now have air side and water side capabilities with Guideline 36. We've done a lot of streamlining, a lot of help wraps. Guideline 36 is still a fairly complicated sort of install to get the benefits, but the benefits can be humongous. I think we just heard about 64% energy savings using the energy valve, but we're seeing, on average, kind of 30% energy savings with good deployments of Guideline 36, and it kind of comes all the way up the stack, right? It comes up from the field controllers, comes up from the control of the building, comes up from the cloud control of the building, etc. So everything is impacted, and it's driving a lot of upgrade activity because a lot of data has to flow in order to efficiently operate Guideline 36. We're also updating our smoke control, UL 864, which are controllers, and those capabilities are coming out with an upgraded UL 864 smoke control capability. Learn more about that. We've done our own work in the connected workflow application, a lot of modernization of how you interface with Johnson control systems through mobile devices, through connected workflow, a lot of work on those workflows, help wraps, etc., etc. A lot more coming in that area. We're making a big investment in something we call Lifecycle Management Portal, which is really that front-facing portal to all of those personas in the building lifecycle. And then, of course, we have our own supervisory network controller as well. With 14.0, we had capabilities around 802.1x and IPv6. 14.1, a lot of more capabilities, HTML5, et cetera, coming into that Facility Explorer family. So exciting developments. Hear more about it out in the on the show floor, and very exciting. Just to wrap up, where are we on this autonomous building journey? It's something that we talked about last year at ControlsCon, and it's this migration from the smart building that I described into the autonomous building, where the building actually starts to heal and manage itself. And it does it based on all of the data, all of the input. And the good news about the autonomous building and how we'll accelerate that is once that building gets connected, you can start to get help for that building remotely. So you can get a lot of control, a lot of data. You can do something with maybe 2 techs in the cloud that can monitor hundreds and hundreds and thousands of buildings and help out people on the ground that have to operate in those buildings. And those capabilities we actually deploy quite a bit today, and we're seeing more and more of that. And the data that comes out of a building is super tailored to AI, the large language models, the ChatGPT types of models. If you look at the sequence of operations, the way you manage a building, it lends itself very well to AI. So just wrapping up, I want to thank you. Our team is here. Guy Perna manages the overall Cochran-Supply relationship. As I mentioned, we're doing a lot of activity to bolster our support of this channel and to support the authorized system integrators and the system integrators within the channel. We encourage you to learn more. We encourage you to come with Cochran to Milwaukee and see what we've got going on there. There's a lot of exciting things. Even if you're not using Johnson today, give us a look. Come experience some of the things that we're experiencing in our markets, in our buildings. Doug Kuntz talked yesterday about CCT. He's going to talk later today about EasyIO. Very fantastic sort of resource for you. We also have our business development team that supports the channel. And then Liana runs our Facility Explorer. She's our product manager for Facility Explorer. She's here as well. Look her up, ask her questions about how we do Facility Explorer and how we integrate with Niagara. So, thank you.
Well done.
All right.
Quick question for you. You mentioned, so Belimo mentioned the scale up of the industry. You mentioned retrofit. How is Johnson, is that becoming a huge, do you see that market increasing? Could you just speak to how Johnson's looking at that retrofit market?
Yeah, so a lot of this industry is focused on construction.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the transaction that drives a lot of product volume. But if you look at the needs of the owners, and if you look at the needs of the building, they have buildings that aren't operating that well. You go into any building, easily you could find 30 to 50% of stuff that's broken.
Yeah.
And now that you have the data and the intelligence to know that it's broken, it's driving people to upgrade and fix their buildings. Plus, they want to provide all of those things, that better occupant experiences, et cetera. So we've seen that shift into the retrofit upgrade market.
Yeah, interesting. And I think all of us have as well. There's so many old buildings out there, right? So
yeah, the average age of a building in New York City is 80 years old.
Isn't that crazy?
And they have pneumatics in them. So. And they still need to provide everything that we're talking about from a smart building perspective.
It's great to hear about all the opportunities out there for the industry. So great.
All right.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done.